Palestinians have battled for statehood for years. Through violence,
Free Palestine!
Peaceful protests, and years of negotiations. Now they vow to go to the United Nations. Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki says that unless diplomats from the United States and other nations make a credible proposal for Middle East peace talks, the Palestinian president will seek formal statehood at the United Nations.
He will present the official request of the State of Palestine to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon.
That decision could push Palestinians into a confrontation with the United States, one of its biggest aid donors.
For the Palestinians, efforts to delegitimize Israel will end in failure. Symbolic actions to isolate Israel at the United Nations in September won't create an independent state.
Palestinians have called for demonstrations supporting the move in the UN. The U.S. threatens to use its veto if the issue comes before the Security Council.
The only way of getting a lasting solution is through direct negotiations between the parties, and the route to that lies in Jerusalem and Ramallah, not in New York.
Regional analysts say opposition to the Palestinian plan could inflame anti-American sentiment in the Arab world, already roiling with political change and unrest. Graith Al-Omari is executive director of the American Task Force on Palestine.
More demonstrations where the U.S. anti-U.S. sentiment becomes more central in the public discourse that we will see in the Arab Spring. But also I will see it becoming more difficult for pro-American governments in the Middle East to work as the margin of cooperation will be reduced.
Middle East expert David Makovsky says the Obama administration has additional concerns.
They have other priorities right now with foreign policy, domestic crisis, and getting reelected. And that has led them to believe that they've expended a lot of political capital on this issue, and they've got very little to show for now.
U.S. lawmakers say a move for Palestinian statehood also could have severe consequences for the aid Washington provides the Palestinians.
The hundreds of millions of dollars in annual assistance that we have given them in recent years will likely be terminated, and that could well result in the collapse of the Palestinian Authority.
That concerns Israelis who fear an outbreak of violence following any vote at the UN. Amos Yadlin is an Israeli national security analyst.
And it starts with stones and Molotov cocktails, and very quickly it can go to bullets from both sides.
Palestinians say action at the United Nations would not prevent direct negotiations, but Israelis fear the fallout, especially the violence, could bring the peace process to an end. Meredith Buell, VOA News, Washington.